Hi guys, my name's Andrew and today I'm driving a 2023 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. Now, I just want to think about something for a second. You know, a lot can happen in the world around you in 15 years, especially if you're the Toyota Tundra, because since the last gen Tundra went on sale in 2007, every other core full-size pickup rival has had at least 2 redesigns, except this one. And thanks to things like the Ford Raptor, the sort of off-road performance-oriented truck is all the rage now. But while there have been 3 iterations of Raptor since then, Toyota's never really been able to keep up with the Tundra. Frankly, just due to the previous gen truck's older underpinnings. I mean, it did get the TRD Pro treatment in 2015 along with the 4Runner, and it did have some credible, Bilstein suspension upgrades, but it was never really able to compete with the Raptor fully. Until now. Since the Tundra is all new, or was all new for 2022, with a fully boxed frame and a modern 5-link coil rear suspension setup, Toyota's had the perfect opportunity to actually make a true Raptor fighter. So have they? Spoiler alert, they haven't, but it is really damn good. One special thing that I've always liked about Toyota's TRD Pro lineup, though, is the continually rotating color options. For pretty much every model year since 2015, with some exceptions, there's been a new hue exclusive to the TRD Pro vehicles that does typically trickle down to other vehicles in the lineup eventually. Personally, my favorites have been Voodoo Blue and Lunar Rock, which graced the 4Runner in 2019 and 2021 respectively. But for 2022 and 2023, we got this. Solar Octane, also known as possibly the brightest orange you've ever seen on a vehicle ever. It actually makes this shirt look reasonable. Aside from the color, other TRD Pro specific design elements include blacked out trim all the way around, these equally garish camo pattern fender flares, and a light bar in the grille so you can sear other drivers' retinas at night too. Much like the Tundra 1794 edition that I reviewed a while back, as well as the top-end capstone, the TRD Pro features adaptive LED headlights with reverse sequential turn signals, as well as LED fog lights down here in the camo pattern bumper. And at 81.9 inches wide, the new Tundra TRD Pro for the first time is wide enough to require amber clearance lights up front. Much like a Ford Raptor, they are oftenly known as Raptor lights in the off-road community. The TRD Pro also sits slightly higher than every other stock Tundra, thanks to red-painted dual-rate coil springs that raise the front of the truck by just over an inch, and match the anti-sway bars up front. Those springs are wrapped around Fox internal bypass remote reservoir shocks that feature 11 bypass zones and are protected by BBS wheels on BF Goodrich all-terrain tires. Out back, the reverse sequential turn signals are once again present, as are all of the convenience features that I loved about the 1794 edition. For instance, there's a button right here on the side of the taillight to open the tailgate, which lowers to reveal a composite bed, which is something that's now standard on all new Tundras and means that you don't have to spend the extra money to put a bed liner in here. Back here you'll also find LED lights, tie-down points as you'd expect, but there's just a single household-style 120-volt outlet there on the side, which doesn't hold anything to Ford's Pro Power onboard system, but is still nice to have. The TRD Pro also sounds just as good as it looks. Obviously, there's some fake noise piped into the cabin, but that's pretty standard nowadays. The TRD Pro does have a special dual exhaust setup compared to the regular Tundra that I think sounds quite nice, from the outside or with the windows down. You can hear a little bit of turbo whistle from the twin-turbo V6, but honestly not a ton. But that said, the exhaust is loud enough, but not too obnoxious or anything like that. Unfortunately, the constant shifting of the 10-speed does detract from the experience a little bit, because it kind of just sounds like a CVT most of the time. So it's kind of just a constant noise, you know, it doesn't really fluctuate too much, and that's kind of annoying. But as I noted in my 1794 edition review, the 10-speed in this truck is phenomenally smooth. So I guess it's not a bad thing. And frankly, it should be much more reliable than the 10-speed in all of the Ford F-150s. Having worked at a used car dealer that dealt with a lot of Ford trucks, and at a Ford dealer itself in the past, I can tell you this one is almost guaranteed to be better. Compared to the 1794, however, I vastly prefer the driving experience of the TRD Pro. This is actually my first time driving any Tundra with the iForce Max hybrid drivetrain, and I'm really enjoying the extra torque over the regular twin-turbo V6. I believe it's up to 583 pound-feet in this versus 479, I think. Either way, it's almost 100 pound-feet of torque more and about 50 extra horsepower, so it does make a pretty good difference. It's not as quick as the Power Boost hybrid F-150, nor is it as quick as the non-hybrid V6 Raptor, but a 0 to 60 time in the mid 5-second range is nothing to sneeze at for a full-size truck. It's plenty quick. It's way quicker than it needs to be. Ultimately, Toyota did say they actually set this hybrid system up more for performance and capability rather than efficiency, which is why they try so hard to just get you to call it iForce Max rather than actually just calling it a hybrid. So, as such, it's supposed to return around 20 miles to the gallon combined, but I have struggled to achieve that, and obviously part of that is due to me enjoying the extra torque, we'll say, but even just on a normal highway drive this morning to and from Cars and Coffee, about 20 miles or so, I didn't do more than like 16, so not great. The third-gen Tundra's ride quality still remains one of the best in the class, in my opinion, although of course the TRD Pro-specific upgrades, such as the suspension and tires, etc., do lead to a slightly firmer and noisier experience in some cases. The camo pattern front seats are equally stiff, although I find them quite supportive, and I find the overall driving position of this truck actually really comfortable. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Personally, I prefer the color scheme and overall trimmings of the 1794's interior, but this TRD Pro does certainly still have a nice cabin. Everything in here feels very rugged and very durable, which I guess is what you want for the sort of off-road focused version of your pickup truck. And let's be honest, that's what you expect from a Toyota product anyway. This giant 12-inch infotainment screen is still just as visually impressive, but also simultaneously has the same pitfalls as the 1794 did. Apple CarPlay works wirelessly and phenomenally, which is great, but unfortunately, the built-in infotainment system does have a couple of shortcomings. For one, the factory navigation system, while it's here right now, after a 1-year trial period, you have to pay a subscription for that. Which I just think, did they not learn from BMW and their heated seat thing a couple years ago? Apparently not. This system also doesn't have a dedicated home screen, meaning that despite the size of this screen, you can only look at one thing at any given time. If you want your maps, you can have your maps, unless you're past the year period. If you want your music, there it is. Which, frankly, is the reason that I use Apple CarPlay anyway, so I'm fine with just sticking with that. This screen is also home to the 360-degree camera system, which in my opinion is fantastic. It offers tons of different angles. There's your wheels, the side, down the side of your vehicle. Obviously the back door's open right now, so that kind of makes that redundant. But overall, tons of angles, great quality, big thumbs up for me on this camera system. It makes parking a giant truck like this in my tiny little apartment parking spaces a whole lot easier. There is one big glaring fault with this camera system though, and that is that you don't really have a ton of control over it. What I mean by that is, right now to show you this, I'm in reverse holding the brake down, but if I put it back in park, it's gone. It does pop up occasionally in low speed situations showing your front camera if it thinks you're getting too close to something, but it once again just disappears as soon as that perceived threat is gone. And there's a camera view button right down here in the center stack, but it just brings up this kind of spinning 360 view, which in theory is a great idea. And you can even see this sort of augmented view where it shows the camera inside the truck. Once again, don't mind the back door being open there. For some reason, inexplicably, you can change the color of this Tundra graphic on here, but you can't actually control the rotation. You can pause it, but that's all you get. If you want to actually move it around, too bad. Around the rest of the interior, you'll find tons of TRD Pro and Toyota specific branding on the dashboard there, and there's a better look at the camo pattern seats with red accents again. Lots of red accents in here. My favorite of which is the 12 o'clock marker on the steering wheel that you probably won't be able to tell on camera, but it's ever so slightly off-center to the left, which is really annoying when you notice it. But again, big dials with fake screws in them, chunky buttons, big shifter with, again, a red accent. And then you get down here and there's this dinky little four-wheel drive selector that you have to, like, use 2 fingers to push like that. I don't understand this. It works, but it's just odd. To be honest, I also didn't really notice a ton of difference in the different drive modes and terrain settings in everyday driving. I'm sure off-road you'll be able to tell a difference. I'm sure they work just fine. That's just my sort of limited experience. I didn't really feel much of a difference, but maybe that's just me. I did notice, however, though, that for some reason the rear differential locker is limited to 4 low, which limits its functionality in, you know, muddy situations, sandy situations, things that a Raptor is typically known for excelling at. The rear seat is largely the same as the front, as well as largely the same as every other Tundra. Obviously, they have the specific pattern and stitching and whatnot back here. The only real difference I noticed is there's no under-seat storage, with this being a hybrid. That's where all the batteries and other components for the hybrid system are, presumably. And as always, Toyota's exclusive roll-down rear window continues to be an excellent feature. So overall, while the new TRD Pro may still not quite stack up to the Raptor or TRX in terms of outright off-road performance or just frankly craziness, it's certainly trying with the color though. It is still a very competent and frankly very good half-ton truck in every other way. Personally, I think I would get the TRD Pro exterior upgrades and suspension and put them on a 1794 because I just prefer that interior. But frankly, you can't go wrong either way. It's still a really darn good truck. Just make sure you have some sunglasses.